We are here today, gathered, for this lovely, lovely thing between us.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad, you doubter.
I wasn't a doubter. We just had disagreements on what the format would be and what exactly it was. It's clearly not a pamphlet, so I apologize. But yeah, no, the new Legal Playbook, out now, Amazon. Yeah, why? Give us your thoughts.
Think about when we started the discussion. We had a big debate about it at the time as to whether there was actually sufficient to justify writing a book. And for weeks we debated the concept and we sort of started sketching the outline of the topic that we thought we needed to cover. And as we started going through it and as we started sort of trying to put down our thoughts on the topics that we are discussing with clients and we're seeing clients really deal with at the moment, we actually realized that it was a lot more than we'd anticipated it was going to be. And at the same time, the faster we worked on the book, the faster things were changing and the faster we were having to update. So not only is it a book that covers a huge amount of ground on a topic that is absolutely vital. I want to start by saying vital for clients.
As well as firms.
Yeah. But, there's no doubt in a month's time we're probably going to have to update sections of it because it is changing so far.
Because of how timely it is, and I think that that's something that we've spoken about and we've written about so much, is just the rather staggering pace of change and be that from whatever cause. We've often discussed particularly changes across the pond and the ripple effects there. Yeah. And I'm saying that sort of rightly or wrongly. There's I'm not here to sort of, I have in the past, some of my LinkedIn posts definitely sort of indicate how I feel about that, but in this discussion, it's sort of immaterial. You can love it, you can hate it. But the one thing that it is almost frightening, just with how quickly things are changing, both in the AI space and the geopolitical space, and it's a lot that firms and their clients need to take into consideration. And that was one thing that we did find with the book, as you said, like as quickly as we were, as quickly as we were writing it, we were having to update it.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean though that what we've written is now out of date, because the lessons that you can learn are they are very timeless.
Yep.
We've just tried to put it in the book in a very timely manner, I think is sort of how I would describe it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's right, because there's certain principles that we are very clear on. I think there are some very challenging questions that we pose, even if they're not posed as questions. There are some very challenging questions that we pose to the sector.
Yep.
And I think they are questions that clients will be asking their law firms once they've read the book, and they probably are, and we know certainly in the number of instances where we are acting for very large corporate clients, those are the questions that they're starting to ask. So I think the questions are important, but at the same time, I think it is something that we need to recognize, and from a personal perspective, I mean, as you know, I've been talking about this and writing about this for almost, more than a decade now, but when we started Relevance Advisory Services back in February 2024, so just over a year ago, I was a strong proponent of the benefits of AI in the context not just of the legal sector, but generally in society. And as we have become more and more involved in the application of the technology and how fast the technology and its capabilities are evolving, the more nervous I have become about the impact on the sector in circumstances where I get the sense that the sector is not actually wanting to understand what it is capable of now and what it's likely to be capable of in the future. And if you just go back to the first leadership publication we wrote in February 2024, we said that the predictions at the time were that its full capability, it will become transformative by sort of 2030. That was sort of that's a very aggressive timeline, 2030. And we said, no, we think it's actually 2027. And we predicted certain things were going to happen by 2027.
Yeah.
And the irony of that is February 2025, March 2025, everything that we predicted as happening by 2027 has already happened.
Yeah.
And we are almost 6 months ahead of where we thought we'd be. So we were very aggressive in our belief as to what the technology was going to be capable of. And even we were behind the curve in the sense of we were slow in the sense of realizing just the potential of what we were expecting to see in the coming 18 months.
Yeah, and I think it's a weird one because there's definite reasons as to why people have adopted the mindset that they have, and again, we're not here to sort of weigh in on how right or wrong that is.
Yep.
But the one thing that I think people have been is way too cautious, and it's not a caution born of care.
Yep.
And I say that in a way I'm trying to measure my words because I don't want to sort of step on anyone's toes unnecessarily, let's say. But it's a caution born out of fear. And that's something that we've again spoken quite a lot about. And I think in this book we do go a long way to showcase the reality and how it is that people should be approaching it and how they could be approaching it. And with that in mind, I think we should do a reading.
But just to your point, but just before you move on, it's thinking too small about the technology. That's the challenge we've got now.
Yeah.
And the other challenge that we have, and we're seeing it, in fact, we had an exchange today with a colleague on LinkedIn about our view that it is going to massively displace lawyers, because we are seeing it currently. I mean, in one of the projects we're working on for a client, 45% of their current revenue has been identified as being displaceable through use of the current technology.
Yeah.
We're going to automate it.
Yeah.
That's a big number. But the comment was, no, you've misread the situation. You're falling into the trap that Richard Susskind fell into a decade ago, where he said that the end of lawyers was coming soon. So it was wrong then, it's wrong now. And that's the wrong approach to take, because the technology now is not the technology that it was then. And just at a very simple level, the technology then was controlled by who? It was controlled by the lawyers.
Yeah.
They were using the e-discovery. They were doing the sort of analysis. They were doing the case law analysis and the like. Now, the technology doesn't just make them more efficient. It actually does the work instead of them. Yeah, and it's in the hands of the clients. That's where this all starts becoming very, very interesting.
Yeah, and the sort of previous technological leaps that you mentioned there, again, the benefit for law firms is they were locked still behind the barrier of the knowledge barrier, the knowledge divide that kept lawyers safe.
Yep.
The big issue now, and we're seeing it not only in the legal sector, but just more generally knowledge-based professions, is the same sort of displacement that we saw in manual jobs.
Yep.
The horse is being replaced through no fault of its own, just purely because there are better, stronger, faster systems out there.
Yep.
And it's an interesting one because I was reading down at the local museum, there was one of the first ever speeding tickets was given out where we're based. And I remember they have like a little newspaper clipping, and in the newspaper clipping, essentially they say, well, this is sort of immaterial because they really don't even go that much faster than a horse and cart, and we can go faster than them. So really there's no big worry for us. And I mean, how many horse and carts do you see now? I mean, to be fair, sometimes, but usually it's an oddity, and you sort of question what's going on with the person behind the reins. But again, the knowledge industry and the knowledge-based sector now is facing the same sort of displacement that we've seen in so many other fields and so many other sectors.
But
that's the issue.
Pace.
Well, not only pace, because the pace has been aggressive in previous sort of great displacements of labor in whatever sort of area it is. But this is the first real proper threat to knowledge.
Yeah.
And people, I don't think they quite understand that. And is there an arrogance there? Perhaps. Again, I'm not going to jump into that sort of debate. But it is something that we need to be alive to. None of us are special to the extent that we can sit back and say, oh, well,
yeah, agreed.
It's fine. It's just going to float past us. We need to have the hard discussions, which we do in the book, which we've done in the past, and we need to start putting systems in place and start reorganizing the very structures and the foundations that we rely on, because those are now outdated.
Agreed.
And you can't have change in the one without change in the other. The difficulty there, and again, we've seen this in conversations with clients, we've seen this in conversations during sort of prospectus situations. People think that, oh, well, if we don't change the one and you're saying that the other then can't change, simply that's the answer, then we don't change. But that's just wrong, because what you have there is destructive change.
Yep.
And that's the difficulty, because change is coming and change will have an impact on you. We are saying that now is the time to make the changes yourself rather than trying to just survive when that destructive element comes into play.
We are very, very clear in the book, and that is not everyone is going to survive. And we need to have that honest conversation, because there is so much at the moment in the way of, don't worry, it'll just augment you, it'll make your life easier. Not only will it make your life easier, but it will give you balance, it will give you access to more higher paid work, different types of work. All of that is, if you look at it properly and if you analyze what is actually happening and where the work is coming from, that is patronizing at its best. It's disingenuous at worst. And as we say in the book, we say, for someone to come along and say, buy my technology, it's just going to augment you. Oh, and by the way, I'm selling that same technology to your clients. So the clients will do the work before it comes to you. So on both ends of the candle, you being whipped. That's very bad use of whatever that term is. But you understand the point. But don't worry about it. That is snake oil salesmen at their best.
Yes, it is.
No, but it's just extraordinary to me that you can have all of these people saying, don't worry about it. But what they are doing is they are selling you products that by their very design are going to displace your lawyers and time and fill the time with additional work. Where's this additional work coming from? This sexy, higher paid work? From where? And why is no one doing it at the moment? And when you've got Kirkland's and Paul Weiss and all these highly profitable firms, what are their numbers now? $9 million average equity partner pay a year. Why are they not better placed to do this halo, high-paying work that requires that real expertise and legal wisdom than the firms that are, $500,000 profit per equity partner, $1 million profit per equity partner? These are the hard questions that need to be answered. And we have to be honest. There was a fascinating piece in today's newspaper, unrelated to AI, but talking about what's going on in the geopolitical world at the moment, by Max Hastings. And he says, and I'm paraphrasing, but he says, and I think this really is something we need to be thinking about. He says, it's not about being negative, but he says those that actually can see what is happening need to have the honest conversation so that at least we are starting to think about the consequences. And you talk about previous displacements. I mean, and again, in one of the chapters of the book, we actually deal with the idea of it's like the steam engine. Don't worry about it, it's like the steam engine. Don't worry about it because inertia will protect us. It takes a long time for these things to filter through. 18 months. Look at what we've seen. In the hands of clients, look at what we are seeing in the work that we're doing with clients. This is not a decade. And if anything, inertia is going to hold us back rather than it is going to protect us.
But let's not give too much of the book away, and obviously that we've barely sort of scratched the surface. But the point of this, I can't even remember the word you used. I'm not going to try to repeat it. The LinkedIn-agram. I can't even say that word. There we go. But do check it out. It's on Amazon today. You can get it in ebook. You can get it in paperback, hardback, hardcover, as we have here, which is lovely. And we do say that we are not too critical, but I think it's a bit difficult when the back has the little tidbit that it does have, and you have to find that out for yourself. So do go check it out. It's available now, and as you did allude to earlier, we will definitely be updating it in the coming months, because that's just the nature of the beast that we are now contending with. But I think it's a fantastic book. It was a hell of a lot of fun to work on. The new Legal Playbook available now on Amazon. Feel free to find the link on our website.